All right. Ready to dive deep into what happens when you have a drink.
Oh, yeah.
You sent over a YouTube video titled, What Alcohol Does to Your Body.
From the Institute of Human Anatomy.
Yes. And let me tell you, it is a wild ride from
Yeah.
the first sip to, well, let's just say the morning after.
It really is surprising just how much goes on
Yeah.
behind the scenes that we never even think about.
I know. For instance, did you know that alcohol absorption
Yeah.
starts in your mouth?
That's right. Just a tiny bit, though.
Really?
The lining of your mouth,
Uh-huh.
that mucosal tissue,
Yeah.
it's actually designed to allow some substances to pass through.
Wow.
Think of it kind of like a superhighway right into your system.
So even those fancy wine tasters who swish and spit,
Yeah.
they're absorbing some alcohol.
It all makes a difference.
That's wild.
Of course, the real action starts further down.
Okay.
It makes a quick stop in your mouth, travels down the pharynx, basically your throat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the little flap that moves when you swallow, the one that makes the Adam's apple jump,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
the epiglottis, right?
Got it. Okay.
That little flap is the security guard,
Oh!
making sure the alcohol goes down the right pipe,
Yeah.
not into your lungs.
Imagine.
Yeah. Can you imagine the chaos if it went the wrong way?
That is a visual I
Yeah.
will not forget.
Okay.
But once it's past the throat, the stomach is where the party really gets started, right?
Absolutely. The stomach absorbs about 10 to 15%
Okay.
of the alcohol.
Wow.
Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
The rate of absorption
Uh-huh.
depends on whether you've eaten or not.
So if I have a big meal before drinking,
Yes.
it's like building a dam in my stomach.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
At the bottom of your stomach
Okay.
is the pyloric sphincter.
Uh-huh.
Imagine like a drawbridge.
Okay.
Food raises that bridge, slowing down the alcohol's entry
Interesting.
into the small intestine.
So eating before drinking is a good thing.
Gives your liver more time to do its job.
Exactly.
Speaking of the liver,
Yeah.
this video described it
Yeah.
like this massive, constantly working organ
Uh-huh.
that filters and detoxifies everything we consume.
It's amazing.
It can even regenerate itself,
I know.
which is mind-blowing.
It really is a workhorse.
It is.
And it has to be dealing with all the stuff
Right.
we throw at it, not just alcohol.
Right.
But when it comes to alcohol, the liver uses this two-person cleanup crew
Oh,
to break it down.
okay.
The first, an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase,
Okay.
hackles the ethanol,
Uh-huh.
but creates this nasty byproduct, acetaldehyde.
Acetaldehyde, that sounds ominous.
It's actually more toxic than the ethanol itself.
Wow.
But luckily, the second cleaner,
Right.
another enzyme,
Okay.
swoops in
Okay.
and converts the acetaldehyde into acetate,
Mhm.
which is harmless
Okay.
and can be used by the body for energy.
So it's a detoxification tag team.
Yeah, it is.
But what about the alcohol that doesn't get processed right away?
Right.
Where does that go?
That ends up in your bloodstream,
Oh.
circulating throughout your body.
Okay.
And some of it actually gets released through your lungs.
You're telling me we literally exhale
Yes,
some of the alcohol we drink?
exactly. That's why breathalyzers work.
Oh.
The alcohol in your blood
Mhm.
diffuses into the air, sacs in your lungs.
Okay.
And when you breathe out, some of it escapes.
That's a fun fact I'll have to remember.
Right.
But it's not just the lungs, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't the video say alcohol affects
Yes.
pretty much every part of your body?
Almost every part, it's water soluble.
Oh.
So it goes everywhere water goes.
Uh-huh.
The exceptions are bone and fat,
Okay.
which have lower water content.
Okay.
So your muscles, organs, you name it.
Yeah.
They all interact with alcohol to some degree.
Okay, so we've seen how the alcohol gets in.
Hmm.
We've seen where it travels.
Yeah.
But the real story, the one that I'm really curious about,
Right.
is what happens when it reaches your command center, your brain.
Ah, yes, the brain. That's where things get even more interesting.
I bet.
Buckle up.
So alcohol's in the bloodstream, making its way to the brain.
Right.
What happens when it gets there?
Well,
Does it just make us feel tipsy?
yeah, it's a lot more complex
Okay.
than just feeling tipsy.
Right.
Alcohol actually interacts with your brain chemistry,
Okay.
specifically the neurotransmitters
Well,
that
yeah.
control things like mood and pleasure.
So neurotransmitters, those are like the
Yes.
chemical messengers in your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And alcohol messes with those messages.
Mhm.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Alcohol comes along, starts sending out all these fake,
Oh, wow.
feel-good signals,
Okay.
tricking your brain into feeling happy and relaxed.
Ah, so that's why we feel that initial euphoria
Yeah.
and loosening up after a drink or two.
Right.
But I bet there's a downside
Oh, there is.
to all those fake signals.
There is.
What?
Alcohol primarily targets two key neurotransmitters,
Good.
dopamine and serotonin.
Okay.
Dopamine is all about pleasure and reward,
Uh-huh.
while serotonin regulates mood, sleep, and even appetite.
Wow.
Alcohol throws these systems out of whack,
Oh, wow.
leading to those classic effects we associate with drinking.
So the happy, carefree feeling is basically
Yeah,
our brain being hijacked by alcohol.
pretty much.
Right.
And the more you drink,
Uh-huh.
the more these effects intensify.
Okay.
It's like turning up the volume
Oh,
on those fake signals,
yeah.
which leads to impaired judgment,
Mm-hmm.
slower reaction times,
Right.
and sometimes those decisions we might regret later.
Like that time, I thought it was a good idea to
Oh.
sing karaoke in front of everyone.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe alcohol played a role there.
Maybe. Just maybe.
But it's not just about feeling good or making questionable choices.
Right.
Alcohol also messes with your hormones.
Hold on, hormones too.
Yeah.
I thought those were more about things,
Well, they are.
like growth and reproduction.
They are, but they also play a huge role in how you feel
Okay.
and how your body functions.
Uh-huh.
Remember the hypothalamic pituitary axis we talked about earlier?
Remind me, it's a lot of big words.
Well, it's essentially the communication pathway
Okay.
between your brain and your endocrine system,
Uh-huh.
which produces and regulates your hormones.
Oh,
Alcohol can trigger this axis
uh-huh.
to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
So even though I might feel relaxed at first, my body is actually
Is.
pumping out stress hormones. That seems counterintuitive.
It is. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
That surge of stress hormones can actually contribute to feeling anxious or jittery later on, especially the morning after.
That explains why sometimes, even though I've slept,
Right.
I wake up feeling more on edge after a night of drinking.
It's a common experience.
I never connected that to alcohol before.
And it highlights
Wow.
how complex alcohol's effects are.
Right.
It's not just one thing happening, it's a cascade of events
Ah.
impacting your brain chemistry and
Right.
hormone levels.
Speaking of cascades, let's talk about the infamous hangover.
Right.
We all know the symptoms, the headache, the nausea,
Yeah.
the general feeling of blah.
Uh-huh.
But what's really going on in our bodies to cause all that misery?
Well, hangovers are still a bit of a scientific puzzle,
Really?
but we know that dehydration plays a major role.
Really?
Remember how alcohol suppresses that antidiuretic hormone ADH?
Right. The one that tells your body to hold on to water.
Exactly.
Okay, so we basically pee out
Yeah,
more fluid than we take in,
Right.
leading to
And-
dehydration.
exactly. And it's not just water.
Mm-hmm.
We're also losing electrolytes.
Right.
Those essential minerals that keep our bodies functioning properly.
Okay.
This electrolyte imbalance
Uh-huh.
contributes to many hangover symptoms,
So,
like fatigue and muscle weakness.
so it's not just about feeling thirsty. It's about our whole system being out of whack.
Exactly.
And what about that other nasty byproduct, acetaldehyde?
Right.
Doesn't that play a role in hangovers too?
It most likely does.
Okay.
Remember, acetaldehyde is more toxic than ethanol itself.
Right.
While the liver works hard to break it down,
Mm-hmm.
some of it lingers in your system,
Oh.
potentially contributing to those awful feelings.
Okay, so we know what causes hangovers,
Right.
but what about all those supposed cures?
Yeah.
Does anything actually work?
Well,
Like
unfortunately.
a greasy breakfast,
Yeah.
a sports drink, maybe even hair of the dog?
Unfortunately, there's no magic bullet for a hangover.
Ah,
Time is the only truly proven remedy.
really?
Your body needs time to process the alcohol, rehydrate,
Uh-huh.
and rebalance its electrolytes.
So all those supposed cures are just myths?
While they might provide temporary relief or
Or-
placebo effects,
Okay.
there's no scientific evidence to support their effectiveness. Greasy food might settle your stomach,
Uh-huh.
but it won't speed up alcohol processing.
Right.
Sports drinks can help with rehydration,
Uh-huh.
but they won't magically erase the other effects.
Okay.
And as for hair of the dog, well, that's just delaying the inevitable
Right.
and potentially making the hangover worse in the long run.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I guess the best way to avoid a hangover
Yeah,
is to just drink responsibly in the first place.
exactly. Moderation is key.
Right.
But beyond hangovers,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to learn
Uh-huh.
about how alcohol interacts
Yeah.
with specific parts of your body.
Okay.
For instance, did you know that alcohol can impact your muscles?
My muscles really...
Yeah.
I thought it just made me feel relaxed
There's that.
and maybe a bit clumsy.
But alcohol can actually interfere with muscle recovery
Oh.
and growth.
Really?
Remember how alcohol activates the sympathetic nervous system?
Yeah.
That fight or flight response?
Yeah, we talked about that. It's why our heart rate speeds up after a drink.
So that activation, combined with increased blood flow to the muscles, can actually hinder protein synthesis.
Hold on. Protein synthesis.
Yeah.
That's how muscles repair and grow.
Well,
You're saying having a drink after a workout could mess with my games.
it's something to consider,
Really?
especially if you're serious about building muscle.
Oh,
That post-workout beer might not be the best choice
wow.
if you want optimal recovery.
Huh. Maybe we'll swap that post-workout beer
Right.
for a protein shake instead.
Probably a good idea.
But it's not just muscles, is it?
No.
The video mentioned that alcohol can affect other organs too,
Yeah.
like the spleen and gallbladder.
Absolutely. Alcohol interacts with almost every tissue in your body.
Right.
To varying degrees.
Okay.
The extent of the impact depends on several factors,
Yeah.
including how much you drink, your genetics,
Okay.
and your overall health.
So it's like a personalized roller coaster ride through your body, with alcohol affecting each person differently.
And while we can't predict the exact effects on every individual,
Right.
understanding the general mechanisms at play
Yeah.
can help us make more informed choices.
Speaking of informed choices,
Yeah.
I remember the video mentioned
Yeah.
that alcohol affects men and women differently.
Right.
Something about body fat percentage playing a role.
That's right.
Okay.
On average, women tend to have a higher body fat percentage than men.
Uh-huh.
And since alcohol is water soluble,
Right?
it distributes itself throughout the body's water content.
Yeah.
This means that for women,
Yeah.
the same amount of alcohol is concentrated in a smaller volume of water,
Okay.
leading to a higher blood alcohol concentration.
So even if a man and a woman drink the same amount,
Right.
the woman might feel the effects more strongly
Exactly.
because the alcohol is more concentrated in her system.
It's not just about body size or weight,
Right.
but also about how alcohol is distributed within the body.
That's a really important point to consider,
It.
especially when thinking about responsible drinking
Right.
and knowing your limits.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how something we consume
Mm-hmm.
can have such a widespread impact on our systems.
It really is.
But I think we're ready to move on to the final part
Okay.
of our deep talk,
Yeah.
where we wrap up our exploration of alcohol's effects
Right.
and maybe uncover a few more surprises along the way.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from that first sip to the hangover science.
Yeah.
We've seen how alcohol takes this crazy journey through the body. But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to revisit something that really stood out to me.
Okay.
How alcohol affects our decision-making.
Right.
The video talked about lowered inhibitions and how it can lead us to do things we might not normally do.
It's one of the most well-known effects of alcohol.
Yeah.
And often talked about.
Right, right.
And it all comes back to how alcohol interacts with those neurotransmitters in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones involved in reward and pleasure.
So we're feeling good, maybe a little more relaxed.
But what's the downside?
Well, that relaxed feeling can come with a side of impaired judgment.
Oh.
Essentially, alcohol makes it harder for your brain to assess risk and consequences.
Okay.
It's like that little voice in your head that normally says,
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't such a good idea. It gets put on mute.
And suddenly karaoke in front of a crowd sounds like a brilliant plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be harmless fun,
Right.
but it can also lead to riskier behaviors.
Oh, yeah.
It's why we see those classic drunk decisions
Oh, yeah.
that people often regret later.
So it's not just about feeling happy or tipsy.
Right.
It's about alcohol fundamentally changing
Yeah.
how our brains process information to make decisions.
Exactly.
That's kind of a sobering thought.
It is, and it underscores the importance of responsible drinking.
Absolutely.
Knowing how alcohol affects our brains and bodies
Right.
empowers us to make informed choices.
Absolutely. We've learned so much about the intricate journey alcohol takes through our system.
Right.
And it's clear that moderation and awareness are key.
For sure.
Maybe thinking about that 2-person cleanup crew in my liver
Right.
will help me pace myself next time.
It's certainly a vivid image.
It is this.
But beyond the science, there's also a deeper takeaway here.
Okay.
The video highlighted the incredible contribution of those who donate their bodies to science.
Wow.
It's because of them that we can understand these complex processes in the first place.
That's a good reminder that behind every scientific discovery,
Yeah.
there are people who have selflessly contributed to our knowledge.
And in this case, their contribution has allowed us to explore the intricate journey of alcohol
Right.
through the human body.
Yeah.
It's a story that highlights the interconnectedness of our organs, our behaviors, and the choices we make.
Well said. So here we are at the end of our deep dive into the effects of alcohol on the body.
Right?
We've seen how it gets absorbed, how it interacts with our organs, how it messes with our brain chemistry and hormones, and even how it contributes to those dreaded hangovers.
We've learned that it's not just about feeling a buzz or getting a headache.
Right.
It's about understanding the complex interplay of chemistry, biology, and behavior.
And hopefully armed with this knowledge, you'll approach your next drink or your next decision about drinking with a new appreciation for what's happening inside your body.
Until next time, stay curious and drink responsibly.